So it is now time to start building the worlds your players will be experiencing throughout the game. And I know that this is probably the most daunting task for new Dungeon Masters, so therefore I will be going step by step with you to cover all aspects of world building, along with sharing my advice and providing examples. Today we will be discussing where to start world building, along with discussing what a major location is, its importance, how many you should have, and how to start writing those locations. But remember that this series is here to provide advice to writers. It is not here to retell the rules as written in the books. In the first steps, it is crucial to be sure to always check back on both that mission statement along with your player input to ensure that session 0 was not wasted. So, from our session 0s, we now know what our setting and tone will be for the campaigns that we are writing. For our example campaign, we must remember that our setting is a post-apocalyptic desert with a few large settlements that are very loosely connected. This campaign also has a huge emphasis on survival, so the world should be harsh and brutal in nature, pushing the players to their limits at all times. So, with this in mind, the first step that I always take in writing the world my players will be playing in is writing just a small amount about each major location to let them solidify in my mind. In my opinion, going from major location to major location, writing the entire place all at once, then moving to the next one is a fruitless effort. If you write like this, you will 1. Get worn out very quickly, 2. You will lose the big picture and get lost in your own writing with one major location that serves all purposes your players will ever need, and 3rd, and most importantly, you will almost definitely write yourself into corners that you can't escape from. Leave your worlds open so when you or another player comes up with an interesting idea, it can be easily placed into the world, making that world your own. Dungeons & Dragons world building should never be done. You need to leave your worlds open-ended for your players to write, and this goes down into every aspect of the world. If you write an entire world down to heroes, villains, political systems, laws, currencies, trading routes, and school systems, your players will have no effect on that world. They will be existing in a space they have no control over and are forced to follow the system as designed, because if they don't, they will be nailed down. And that isn't Dungeons & Dragons. That is reality. Dungeons & Dragons is creativity and spontaneous creation incarnate, not rules and systems that force conformity out of its players. Write your Dungeons & Dragons worlds, but don't write them ad nauseum. Leave room for your players to complete the world with their stories and their thoughts and their opinions and ideas. That is how you connect your players to your worlds, letting them control their fates. A major location in your D&D game is a place where the players will spend a large chunk of their adventure. There will be multiple adventures based here and lots of major NPCs for your players to interact with. A major location is a huge part of your story and is a backsplash for everything that your players do for that part of the story. Major locations are things like all of the different villages in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or even the different worlds that you will be playing through in a Mario game. There are distinct and differentiating areas that are avenues for adventures that are distinct and formed around those major locations. And all of these adventures normally build up to one that will define the direction the story leads as the players move from this major location to the next. Because of this importance, the amount of these locations and how you write them is of great importance in how your Dungeons & Dragons campaigns will conspire. When writing major locations, it is best to try to come up with a nice number of places that your players will be coming in contact with, and this can be easily garnered from the mission statement. Just take a look at the setting you and your players have come up with and make an educated guess at how many distinct different major locations your players will come in contact with. This number is always around 5 to 15, and I know that's a big range, but it depends on the length of the campaign that you want to play in. In my opinion, anything less than 5 leaves you with too little to work with no matter the scope of your campaign, and anything more than 15 will leave you playing for years on end. That being said, these major locations can be anything from separate planes of existence to different districts of a city. Regardless of size, each of these major locations should have the same amount of detail written about them. Think of it like the planets in Star Wars. The planet is just as big as any other, but that planet as a location is defined by the story that was told on it. So if you are writing a campaign that is about a few spread out settlements, or if you are writing a plane hopping romp through the cosmos, you will still need to to write the same amount of detail for the major locations in either of these campaigns. Now, for our campaign, we will probably have 7 major locations, this being the settlements that have sprung up in our desert. The reason that I have landed on 7 is because for our campaign, our players want a grand level 1 through 20 adventure with an epic story, and this number of locations is integral to the plot. Each major location is protected by its own power source, just like Angriana's in her backstory. And the amount of major locations that you add to your campaign world can also be determined based on the story. It may not need to be directly related to the plot like this, but it should be based on the scope of your story and the tone of the campaign that everyone has decided on. Now that we have the number of major locations written, we can now begin writing about them. Each major location should be distinct and interesting in their own way, each serving a different purpose to the story. And this purpose that they serve is up to you. Major locations are what your players use to interpret your world, and they use them to understand the world and make decisions in character. So whatever tone or emotion you want your players to derive from your world, you need to use the major locations to relay that tone. So in our 7 major locations, we need to relay that setting and tone. And the first of these major locations will be where the party starts their journey, and will be the most desperate of all settlements. Its power source has already been removed and is now forfeit to the elements. Many people have already left this settlement for safer areas, and the other ones who remain have nowhere to go or can't make the dangerous journey on their own. This is a dangerous, lawless land where everyone is out for their own survival. Abandoned homes and businesses leave this place with an eerie, ghostly presence that is only broken up by the occasional firefight brought on by the different gangs that are trying to take power from local authority in this time of weakness. And that is about as much as you need to know about this major location for now. Write these locations in a way where adventures will likely happen in them. Just like how players have to write adventurers for their campaigns, the Dungeon Master needs to write worlds that need adventurers. And through later steps we will flesh it out more, but for now that is what we need. Writing a short general description about the major location is a perfect way to cement your vision while it is fresh, and also it is a perfect building block for adding all of the things that will make your place feel real to your players. This being shops, taverns, dungeons, and adventures, along with an assortment of potential allies, enemies, and friendly NPCs for your players to interact with. But like I said, for now we will leave a short paragraph for later reference. And remember that this now needs to be done for the rest of the locations in the campaign, before we start adding any of that aforementioned filler that will make these places feel real. Today we took a crucial yet simple first step into writing our worlds, and next we will be discussing how to take these general descriptions we've written and add those people, places, and adventures to them that turn them into fully written major locations for our players to play through. And if you're a player, get excited, because in the next video I will be discussing role-playing at the table, and also role-playing in combat scenarios, and why that is important while playing Dungeons & Dragons. Please be sure to subscribe to ensure that you don't miss that upload.